with an ocular cortex can piece together the media's appraisal of the last 2 years and change, from faux rape to Russia, and now to their momentary punching bag, Bill Barr. Their acrimony always seems to have many targets, but by gum, ain't it the coincidence of the decade that every object of their ire just coincidentally happens to be the socio-political opposite of what they happen to be? They've entreated us to turn our eyes upward and brace for falling sky chunks with such X-lax regularity, most people wouldn't look up if they told us a comet was cartwheeling toward the Earth. Desensitization was like 17 months ago. We're in full-blown 24-hour news numbness at this point. Some socialismos were on board before the Barr findings, but now you're stuck with the same shrill panic merchants you had before Trump was even a candidate, let alone the damn president. And how did that dynamic work out for you in the lead up to the 2016 election exactly? I've seen colicky preschoolers with a doo-doo dighty comport themselves with more grace, decorum, and class than the media processing a solitary Trump tweet, and anyone with a remote control knows that goes damn near double for many in the entertainment industry, from limey late-night hacks who couldn't find a punchline at Jonestown, to actors confusing their propensity for playing pretend for a living with an all-encompassing cognizance of global politics. Fuck! At this point, I almost want a full fucking pause on sequels to my favorite games, comics, and films, because I know best case scenario, it'll be just this side of excellent. But for the mandatory Trump's a turbo-Nazi segment, all such sequels seem to cram in like a lubed-up plantain in the pooper of an edgy atheist YouTuber. But I find it's far too convenient to dismiss the media's emergency mongering as the adolescent thrashings of a contemptuous child divested of its Pinko pacifier. There's something far more nefarious at play, albeit, in my opinion, falling short of a coordinated coast-to-coast AM conspiracy. Call it propaganda if you like. The techniques employed by the purse-lipped automatons certainly fit the fucking descriptor, and I now quote directly from Joseph Goebbels' Principles of Propaganda. Quote, "Propaganda must facilitate the displacement of aggression by specifying the targets for hatred."
That the chief law enforcement officer of our country is going off the rails yesterday and today.
Quote, "Propaganda cannot immediately affect strong counter tendencies. Instead, it must offer some form of action or diversion or both."
Former Clinton Labor Secretary Robert Reich, who wrote before Barr's testimony that one remedy, if Barr does not cooperate with Democrats in Congress, could indeed be arresting him and putting him in jail.
Quote, "Propaganda must label events and people with distinctive phrases or slogans." And let me make this perfectly clear, I don't even resent the propaganda. I've been enduring it since barely before I was old enough to detect its very presence. I resent the implication. And 3 years into this shrieking shit fit from the media, their party of choice, the preemie protesters claiming their movement is grassroots, and yet always seem to have freshly laminated signs and a carefully coordinated media campaign to match their Marx worship, not to mention the power brokers behind them, it's abundantly clear that the implication is as follows. All you have to do is give us what we want, and you can have your comfortable delusion of the last 5 decades back. Give us the offices of power we require, and you can go back to blissful, cozy complacency and corporate distraction. And when we ream you deep in the dick hole, we promise to use plenty of Vaseline to deaden the sight so you barely but fucking feel it, just like the Obama years, and the Bush years, and the Clinton years, and on and on and on the procession of perfidy goes. And to that, my rejoinder is simple. Fuck you, motherfucker! You can keep your callow delusions. There's no going back to our cozy chimeras of establishment altruism, and I don't negotiate with intellectual terrorists. And I'll go one further, fuckwit. You want to continually raise the stakes? You want to spend the better part of the Obama administration slowly transitioning from calling your ideological opposites first regressives, then bigots, till 2019 when they're miraculously metamorphosed into full-blown fucking Nazis? Don't be pissed when we pin the Politburo tag on your Trotsky ass, particularly when, by by labeling yourselves anti-fascist to whitewash an underlying socialist agenda, you're employing literally identical tactics as labor-crashing commies of the 30s and fucking 40s. And for Christ's sake, stop throwing a pity party for your actively disintegrating income. Dinosaur media was facing mass extinction before their trans-dimensional temper tantrum. All your cosmic caliber bias has done is expedite the inevitable outcome. Trump has never bullied the press any more than Thomas Jefferson did when he bemoaned bias in media himself in a quote Snopes lied and called apocryphal, but which you can actually look up and read an original fucking scan of on the Library of Congress website. Quote, "It is a melancholy truth that a suppression of the press could not more completely deprive the nation of its benefits than is done by its abandoned prostitution to falsehood. Nothing can now be believed which is seen in a newspaper. Truth itself becomes suspicious by being put into that polluted vehicle." Before continuing, quote, "I will add that the man who never looks into a newspaper is better informed than he who reads them, inasmuch as he who knows nothing is nearer to truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods and errors." End fucking quote. Either way, it's time to wake up and smell the soy vanilla latte, because between the internet and every asshole with a smartphone and a fucking Twitter account scooping your smug ideologue asses on an hourly basis, and the squares at CNN desperately digging themselves out of a record ratings hole with a sophistry steam shovel, the only thing on the news that's late breaking is their grasp on reality. I'm Razor Fist. God fucking speed.